Hey, my name is Brian James. I'm an Indianapolis chapter president for the Proud Boys organization. The reason I'm making this video is because I think somebody needs to step up and speak outside of our club on these issues surrounding Enrique Tarrio being an informant. So usually when you're in a club, it's a pretty good policy not to speak on internal issues outside the club, no matter how bad they are, or no matter how bad you would like for people to know the truth. But in this instance, this situation with Enrique being a federal informant's already been made public. He's given commentary on it publicly. He went to the Gateway Pundit, which is friendly to our organization and friendly to the right in general, and utilized that publication to lie and twist the story into something that it wasn't. Enrique's also become a figure that goes beyond the Proud Boys. He's become a figure that represents and leads and speaks for the right-wing patriots of this country on a larger scale. And a lot of people look up to him and respect him. And he's gone out and given first degrees to large crowds in public. So he put himself in the position that he's in. Everything I'm going to talk about is already public information. It's already out there. It's just being lied about. So if people have a problem with me speaking about it publicly, they can take it up with me. But it's come to a point where I feel like I've got to do what I've got to do to make sure people have the truth and people can make sound decisions accordingly. So I know a lot of people don't have a problem with a quote unquote snitch or with working with law enforcement, and there are different ways that a person could go about that. If you own a business and somebody breaks the windows out, and you've got to file an insurance claim, and therefore you have to file a police report, of course you're going to work with the police. If you know someone is going to do something really horrible, most people don't want to take it upon themselves to intervene with a dangerous person and try to stop it. You go to the police and they stop them from doing something horrible. If you're a woman and someone's stalking you, abusing you, harassing you, you would go to the police. But in the instance of Enrique was living a criminal lifestyle, and he got caught. And in order to make his sentence lighter, in order to do less time in prison, he ruined the lives of a dozen to 24 people willingly. Other people who were doing the same thing he was doing, or maybe even doing a lot less. So there are certain communities where quote unquote snitching is not accepted under any circumstances. But one thing I want to explain to you all is that even if you don't have a problem with people working with the law and turning over criminals, I have this paperwork here, and by the time I'm done going through it and explaining what's going on exactly, I think you'll understand that what he did makes him a person of extremely low character and a person that can't be trusted under any circumstances. So what I have here is the full paperwork from Enrique's Rule 35 modification. So for those of you that that haven't heard this mentioned in rap music, a Rule 35 is when you have a federal conviction. There are federal sentencing guidelines that they don't like to deviate from. So if they want to deviate from, you have to go back for an additional hearing to get your time reduced. So that's what Enrique did here. We sent off and retrieved these papers from the from the court down in Miami, Federal Division. So as I go through here, I've highlighted the parts that are important. It says, from the beginning, Your Honor, since this case was taken down, Henry Tarrio was probably the most cooperative from day one. From day one, he was the one who wanted to talk to law enforcement. He assisted law enforcement in prosecuting 13 other individuals. Those were the federal cases. Skipping down some, in addition to playing a role in that, Henry did play a role with respect to the city of Miami's undercover operation into this illegal gambling ring. So not only did he go do what he felt like he needed to do with the feds to reduce his time, he volunteered to go work undercover with the Miami cops. And this all started in about 2013. It wasn't all that long ago. They asked at one point, did he testify before a grand jury, with these people that he convicted, and the FBI agent says that he did. Okay, so in August, he did another undercover operation with a second set of diabetic test strips. So he went back to other people who were doing the same exact thing that he thought was okay to do and make a bunch of money off of, and put these people in jail for no other reason than to save his own ass. Beyond that, in March, Mr. Tarrio was involved in another undercover operation involving anabolic steroids. So, Enrique is now the head of a club that has one of its tenets as being anti-drug war. Just a few short years ago, this guy was going all over the city of Miami, ruining the lives and putting people in jail of people who do, use or sell steroids, and now we'll find out later, people who have marijuana grow houses. Further along with the Hialeah Police Department, Mr. Tarrio again was involved in undercover operations regarding the wholesale prescription narcotics, resulting in 2 more arrests. In conjunction with the city of Miami in July and working with the agent as a consequence of his information, they successfully raided a grow house and seized 60 pounds of marijuana. So, I'm not a guy who smokes weed. It's not my thing, but, I think we're at a point in society where we realize it's not the worst thing in the world. It's certainly not something that you're going to go and ruin someone else's life over just to get out of the time that you're supposed to do for some crimes that you committed. In August, likewise, another grow house resulting in the seizure of another 40 pounds of marijuana, and also again in July of another grow house in the city of Miami, which at that point was essentially in between cycles and was an inactive hydroponics lab. In addition to all of these productive cooperations, he assisted in approximately 10 other attempts at being productive. So these were times that he went out undercover and tried to snitch on more people that didn't work out. It says oftentimes they may have failed because the local police department just didn't have the manpower. So the local police department in Miami didn't have the manpower to keep up with Enrique's attempted snitching. It's pretty fucking crazy. Your Honor, frankly, in all the years, which is now more than 30, that I have been doing this, I've never had a client as prolific in terms of cooperating in any respect. I believe that was a statement from his lawyer. I think we got through most of it. There was a part in here where they gave the raw numbers of the amount of people that he put in jail. I think that was back towards the beginning, but it was between 12 and 24 people that this guy sent to jail. To get what amounted to a 45% reduction in his time. That's what they gave him at this hearing. So I talked earlier about when Enrique was when this story first came out, he denied it. He said he had no idea what these people were talking about, and he told us the same thing as Proud Boys. He denied it to his brothers. He lied to us. Then he tried to get in front of it, went to the Gateway Pundit, and they do this big story about how he was preventing human trafficking. So in these documents, what he did was he took $11,000, and because he's Cuban, he tried to pay a guy to get some of his fictitious family members in the country. So he entrapped a guy. He's not out there being a fucking hero against human trafficking. He's going around entrapping people to get a reduction on his sentence, and that's all he says. If you go look at the Gateway Pundit article, it was written by, it looks like Jacob Ingalls here, published on January 28th. He doesn't mention any of his other fucking crimes. He was banking on the fact that nobody would go get the paperwork and see everything he actually did. So as he gets caught a little more and a little more, he divulges a little more and a little more. This guy is the lowest fucking form of piece of shit that there is, okay? This guy's not a hero. He's not working with law enforcement. He's a guy who lived as a fucking piece of shit, fraudulent criminal, selling stolen medical supplies that God knows who needed them and had to go without them. And then when he got caught, he did whatever he had to do to get a sentence reduction. This is a person your fucking grandma would be smart enough not to associate with. I don't want to get too far off into this part, but if for some reason the organization decides not to dismiss him, the good thing about Proud Boys is that all chapters are autonomous. Most of the time, we don't know what the fuck the other chapters are doing. We don't know what goes on in their daily lives. We don't know what their plans are. There's very little communication, and there's no real leadership. In reality, Enrique was a spokesman much more than he was anything else. So we'll do what we have to do to distance ourselves from him, from his actions, and from the people who support him. The chapters in Indiana will. Beyond that, I just want to get the information out and make sure everybody's hearing the real story and not just the stories that are being put out to cover his ass. And, most Proud Boys are good people. I mean, overwhelmingly good people. They'll do any fucking thing for you. They're heroes. They're fighting for the country. They're regular dudes who want to get together and enjoy some time together and be outside of the political correctness and the garbage that's going on in society. And they're the type of people, if your car breaks down at 3 in the morning, they're coming. If you're in a crowd of 10,000 of them and they don't know you, they still treat you like family, or they just treat you with respect. Doesn't matter who you are, what you look like, what you've got going on. If our worst enemies in Antifa or anywhere else, went undercover and came to our meetings or came amongst a crowd of us, they wouldn't be able to come away saying anything negative, and they know it. So these are the type of people Proud Boys are. We just ended up with a really, really bad guy at the top of our organization. And I don't want that to reflect, I don't want anybody to take what I'm saying to reflect on the organization as a whole. You could probably judge people who decide to stand by him at this point however you want. But I do want to put it out there that most of the Proud Boys I've met, and I've met hundreds if not thousands across the country, are really good men, and they didn't ask for this. And I want to be the one to stand up and say that this is wrong, and I'm publicly calling it out as being wrong. And anybody who doesn't want to be associated with him or with this going forward, feel free to contact me, and we'll get through this together.